Good evening, and welcome to the Jacobs Center. My name is Lieutenant Brent Williams, and I will be your MC for this evening. If you haven't already done so, I ask that you please silence your cell phone. I want to welcome you to the first annual Sandiego Police Department's African American Officers Pioneers Gala. Tonight we will recognize and honor the sacrifice and accomplishments of 10 African American officers dating back to 1908. Their dedication to law enforcement, the city of Sandiego, and the community that they served has made a significant difference in the shaping of the Sandiego Police Department. Please stand for the posting of heritage colors by the Sandiego Buffalo Soldiers and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Buffalo Soldiers, attention! Right shoulder up! Forward, march! Left face. Present up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right shoulder up. Buffalo Soldiers, post colors. Right, quick. Forward, march.
Thank you, Buffalo Soldiers. I would like to have you remain standing as we welcome Officer Akila Costin to the stage for the singing of the national anthem and the presentation of colors by the Sandiego Police Department's Honor Guard.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Officer Costin. That was beautiful. If you could please remain standing, I would like to invite Sarissa McQueen up to the stage for the singing of the Black National Anthem.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Thank you, Sarissa. All right, you all may be seated. Now, our next presenter had 25 years of service with the Sandiego Police Department, working most of his career at Southeastern Division. I would like to welcome to the stage for the invocation, retired Officer Troy Owens.
Good evening. I've learned a long time ago you're not supposed to pray with issues on your heart, so let me get something off my chest. I'm sitting at a table of 10 all by myself, and I don't know if I'm being punished for retiring last year. If that's the case, I still have my uniform in my closet at home, and I'll be 10-8 on Monday morning. Let us pray. Our eternal Father, our heads are bowed and our eyes are closed, symbolizing our reverence, submission, and total dependency upon you. For you are God, and God all by yourself. There is no other God but you. We thank you for the privilege to be here in your presence on this historical occasion, as we, for the first time, remember and honor all of our African American brothers and sisters who paid the ultimate sacrifice while serving and protecting their communities. And we pray, oh God, that everything we do here tonight be done to glorify you and bring comfort and encouragement to the families of our fallen heroes. God, just encourage them, reassure them that not only are you with them, but everyone in this room and throughout Sandiego are with them as well, and we shall never forget their loved ones. And we thank you for the present, Lord, those who are in the struggle and the fight and the pioneers of the legacy of policing right now. We pray that you give them wisdom and knowledge to do that which you call them to do. Now, God, bless the food that has been prepared for the nourishing of our minds and bodies as we continue to be peacemakers in and out of uniform. I pray this prayer in the matchless name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And let the people of God say together, amen. God bless you.
Thank you, Officer Owens. Now, June is significant to Black history, as signified by Juneteenth. To remind us of the significance and provide some history on Juneteenth, I would like to invite CRB Chair for Community Outreach, Tara Gentry, to the stage.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm going to give you the history of Juneteenth. Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. Dating back to 1865, it was on June 19th that the Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Granger, landed at Galveston, Texas, with news that the war had ended and that the enslaved were now free. Note that this was 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which had become official January 1st, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation had little impact on the Texans due to the minimal number of Union troops to enforce the new executive order. However, with the surrender of General Lee in April of 1865 and the arrival of General Granger's regiment, the forces were finally strong enough to influence and overcome the resistance.
Thank you, Tara. As dinner is being served, I would like to take a few moments to acknowledge the dignitaries in attendance today. When your name is called, please stand so you can be recognized. However, I ask that you hold your applause until the end. First, before I announce the names, I would like to take a moment of silence to just remember Pastor Ricky Laster. For those of you who knew him, he was a very, very good man. For those of you who didn't, he was someone that would have been nice for you to know. He was a pastor, he was a pillar in the community, and a strong supporter of the Sandiego Police Department. He also served as the executive director for the Gang Commission on Prevention and Intervention, and Pastor Laster will be missed. The key dignitaries in the room, representing the mayor's office, we have Darnisha Hunter, City Council President Myrtle Cole, Councilmember Barbara Bree, Councilmember Chris Cate, District Attorney Summer Steffen, City Attorney Mara Elliott, CRB Executive Director Charmaine Mosley, Pastor Gerald Brown, Pastor Patty Allen, Pastor Terry Brooks, Pastor Archie Robinson, Pastor Barry Pollard, Bishop George McKinney, Minister Hugh Muhammad, and Dr. John Warren. Thank you for attending this event. I would now like to invite Council President Myrtle Cole to the stage for a few words.
Good evening, and welcome to the heart of the 4th Council District. I'm not going to say what I usually say, because I have my colleagues, Councilmember Cate. Is Councilmember Bree here also? If it's only Councilmember Cate, welcome to the best district in the city of San Diego. Just saying. And welcome to the San Diego Police Department to honor its past and present African American officers. I want to commend and thank Chief David Neslight and Lieutenant Ben Kelso, President of the San Diego Black Police Officers Association, for their dedication to ensuring that San Diego's African American police officers are honored, remembered, and applauded for their exemplary efforts in protecting and serving the residents of San Diego. Some of you may not know, now my chief of staff is a history buff, so bear with me. Some of you may not know that the first ever African-American lawman in California was Sandiego Deputy Marshal Richard Friedman in 1850. We only had city marshals at that time. Then I believe you already know that Frank McCarter was the first African-American officer hired in the department, and name is right here. Since that time, many African Americans have joined the police department, which has resulted in the formation of the San Diego Police Officers Association in 1974. As a former police officer, I know what you do and what it takes to keep our communities safe. Also, as an African American police officer, I know what we have to endure and what we must do to continue strengthening police-community relations to ensure all residents are treated with dignity and respect. African American officers have made history, lost their lives in the line of duty, and made heroic efforts to save lives. Looking out at all of you gathered here this evening, I give a special thank you to all law enforcement officers for your tireless dedication and working together to make our communities safe and help improve the quality of life for all. Again, I commend and thank all of you who were involved in making this special event possible in the best district in the city of San Diego. And I look forward to an outstanding evening of honoring our past and present African American officers. Again, congratulations to all the honorees, and may God bless those who are no longer with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cole. I'd like to left the dignitary out. I'd like to make sure that I include him. Human Relations Executive Director Joel Day is here with us today. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite our very own Chief David Neslight up for a few words.
Good evening, everybody. It truly is an honor to be here, and I appreciate everybody being here. But I also want to give a shout out to all the staff that put this event together. A lot of work behind the scenes, so thank you very, very much. So thank you for everybody for being here tonight, but I also want to thank all the members of the department as well, and the many different organizations and community groups for making this very special event possible. Your presence here tonight is very important as we honor our past and present African American members of the San Diego Police Department. Now, last month, the department celebrated its 129th birthday. As we look back at our tremendous amount of history of our department, we must also recognize that some members of our department faced obstacles and challenges that others did not. I believe that with every day brings an opportunity to do better than before. My goal as chief is not only improve working relations within the department, but within the community as well. Our police department is only successful when we are engaged with all San Diegans and share a relationship that is built on trust and respect with the communities that we serve every day. Now, I recently spoke to a group of new officers at an academy graduation. I challenged each of them to find a way of gaining the community's trust. I reminded them that this process will not come quickly or with ease. We get called to situations that oftentimes involve people not at their best. I also remind these new officers that while advancing technology can be a great thing in our daily lives, it will never replace the basic human decency and treating everybody with respect. You will soon hear the stories of 10 extraordinary individuals whose dedication and perseverance not only made our department better, but also paved the way so for our future officers to follow. A preview of just some of these stories you will hear tonight include a decorated United States Marine combat veteran who later joined our department and helped start our backgrounds and recruiting unit. This unit is tasked with hiring the best and brightest Sandiegans, ensuring our department shines bright for generations to come. Also, you'll hear about a visionary who saw the need for the department to grow with technology and helped start a crime lab, which now is considered a role model for others to follow. You will also hear about a pioneer on the department who served 31 years and at that time was the first African-American woman to be appointed to the ranks of sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and assistant chief. And you will also hear the tragic story of a dedicated patrol officer who was killed in the line of duty. The patrol substation where he proudly served is named after him. I want to say thank you again for your presence here tonight, and thank you for being part of this special event. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Chief. Our next guest is our keynote speaker. He retired 31 years ago and held the rank of Detective Sergeant. He was also the department's first black African-American Detective Sergeant to head up the robbery unit. I would like to welcome up Sergeant Greg Walton.
Thank you, Dan. Good evening. Pleasure to be here and to see all you folks. Many of you I've worked with or know, and some I may even know your parents. I'm Greg Walton. I'm a retired Sandiego police officer, detective sergeant. I was hired on March 15th, 1974, and I retired in May of 2000, I keep wanting to say that, 2004. I was in the 80th Academy, which was one of the first academies that had recruits attend classes for the first couple of months before going out into the field. It was also the first class where women and men attended to train as police officers. Until that point, most women were hired to work juvenile or with the women prisoners. I learned they could get the job done as well as most men, and sometimes even better. The training was interesting, and I had the chance to work with some interesting characters. Some were hard to work with, or were hard workers, I should say. There were some of those too. And did a professional job. I also had several trainers whose job was strictly to go out, hit the field, hit the first donut shop or coffee shop, and then answer a few radio calls and head back in. I figured that was not part of our job, or the way the job was supposed to do. I survived this, and when we graduated in August of 1974, I was assigned to Relief Squad, where we worked in various areas of the city. Being a rookie, I was always assigned to the ambulance, so I got to see a lot of the city on emergency calls. Relief Squad meant working the days off of squads assigned to regular beats. For instance, 2 days downtown, 2 days in Ocean Beach, and maybe a day in Southeast. When shift change came around, every 3 or 4 months, you would follow your squad if you could, or transfer to another squad to work other areas. During this time, the DPOA was being formed, and as you can expect, there was a lot of fear and questions about what black police officers were doing. I even had a supervisor ride along with me under the guise of seeing how I worked in the field. However, it wasn't long before he asked, "What is it with this Black Police Officers Association?" I explained to him that I saw it as our purpose to help with the training and education of our officers and to help with their training and advancement. I guess it was enough for him because the subject never came up again. Eventually, I transferred to other squads so I could work other areas of the city. I saw that there were other jobs out there that I was interested in, and I knew that I wanted to work in investigations at some point in my career.
Good evening, everyone. Joseph Policeman, Mid-City. If I could ask you all to please take a hold of your program and flip to the back, the very back, the last page. As I lead you in a poem by Arthur Gitterman. Years ago, I blazed the trail through lovely woods, unknown till then, and marked where cairns of splintered shale, a mountain way for other men. For other men who came and came, they trod the path more plain to see. They gave my trail another's name, and no one speaks or knows of me. The trail runs high, the trail runs low, where the windflowers dance or columbine. The scars are healed that long ago. My axe cut deep on birth and pine. Another's name may bear, but still I keep and waste and wood. My joy because the trail is there, my peace because the trail is good. This poem titled The Pioneer is what we selected to commemorate this first annual gala, but also exemplifies the legacy and the hard work of our first honoree, which is Frank McCarter. In July 1908, Chief Wilson and Superintendent Sheehan made Frank McCarter the first uniformed Black Sandiego Police Department, Sandiego police officer, and it didn't take long for the local population to notice. Despite Richard Friedman, the first Black marshal in California, having served as a lawman more than 58 years before, locally, the racial attitudes of the era had actually become worse in some ways, and the idea of a Black police officer wasn't well received, even among some of the officers he was assigned to work with. Some citizens saw it, having a Black man almost too much to take. Within days, Officer McCarter found himself the center of a scathing racist cartoon in the Sandiego Sun newspaper. Despite the negative publicity, Officer McCarter went about doing his job. Months later, attitudes about the new cop apparently began to change when the Sandiego Union wrote an article praising his abilities and actually went so far as to call him an asset to the department. McCarter worked as an officer until 1911, when he left the department to work as a pipe fitter and laborer. In 1915, he was rehired for the Pan American Exposition, placing him alongside of Reginald Stewart Townsend, a Black police officer who was hired on January 1st, 1915. In 1916, McCarter again left the department, this time for good. Now, as the poem said, they gave my trail another's name, and no one speaks or knows of me. So even if you did not know Frank McCarter or know his history or know of him, his legacy and dedication lives through all of us and is reflected through the men and women that you see before you this evening, past and present. Although he is no longer with us, and his surviving family could not be here tonight to witness this event, accepting his award on behalf of his legacy is current Assistant Chief Sharp.
Thank you, Joseph. Our next presenter is going to be PEO Supervisor Cynthia Long. She will be presenting for PEO Supervisor Kim Lomack George.
PEO Supervisor Kim Lomack George was born in Sandiego, California in 1961. Joined the Sandiego Police Department Parking Enforcement Unit on February the 28th, 1988. Kim was promoted to Parking Enforcement Supervisor on September 26, 1996, making her the first African American Parking Enforcement Supervisor for the city of San Diego. She played a pivotal role in challenging the promotional process for minorities within the division. In 1994, Kim received a life-saving award for administering CPR on an unconscious citizen. Her passion and enjoyment of the job allows her to always put others first and to wear a smile on her face even when faced with opposition. Kim became a parking enforcement supervisor because she loved working with the public. Her fondest memory is the close relationships she has developed with her coworkers and peers. Kim states, "I know now that the racial adversities that I experienced in the past have paved the road for future African American parking enforcement supervisor. To some, I present, and to those who know, the Miss Kim Lomack George, Parking Enforcement Supervisor. Please come to the stage."
Good evening. The first thing I want to thank God for all I get. A lot of times as a parking officer, you're pushed to the back. You don't mean anything. You get your instructions, you send your officers out in the field, and all they have is this mouthpiece and a small can of mace. And I must say they do an awesome job. And I like to call them the game changers. Game changers that will allow grown men to cry. Game changers that will make people call you out your name more than once throughout the day. But I like it. It will make a citizen call you and tell untruths about your officers. And that's why I get to know my officers. I get to know who they are as people instead of just an officer. So when that time comes to defend them, I do my very best. I just want to, in closing, because Chief Lucas is staring down the back, I want to thank my mother, Shirley Lomack, my father that passed away 2 years ago, the pillar of my life. He woke me up every single morning. Ring, yeah, Daddy, get up, go to work. Daddy, I don't want to go. Get up, go to work. I thank him for that, because if he hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here. 30 years. That's a long time to take some abuse. Long time. I want to thank my husband at the end of this month, on the 29th of 33 years, Ronald George. Wave your hand, baby. He doesn't move his hand. I got to give him instructions. Hey, wave your hand. All right. My one and only beautiful daughter, Kayla George. Wave your. She's a police employee as well, especially events. And I don't want to call any other names, but I'll have to give my oldest brother a shout out, because if it wasn't for him and my other brother, I wouldn't be as tough, I wouldn't be as witty, because they used to try to do things to me that weren't right. But what I want to thank them for is giving me the opportunity, young. You know, when you play that flag football in the street. They knew I had skills, but they didn't tell nobody else. So my brother that's just ahead of me, Kevin, he would say, Kim, go to the blue car and just turn around. I'm gonna throw it to you. And I said, well, the boys are gonna hit me. They ain't gonna hit you because Herbert right there, go ahead and do it. And so I run, I turn around, they throw it to me, I run, and I scored a touchdown. So I wanna thank my brothers, thank you, for making me tough, making me the person that I am, because initially, I started off being a preschool teacher. Who knew? Now, I get to be in this awesome event with these great pioneers. I couldn't even imagine being in the presence of all these great people that came before me. And I just want to say that I appreciate my supervisor, my peers, my little protege there, and all my employees that came. I really appreciate it, and thank you to my cousins and my friends. And I said I wasn't going to cry, but I am just so excited, and I'm so privileged. Thank you. Awesome.
And our next presenter is going to be Sgt Omar Sinclair, and he'll be presenting for Sgt John Cloud.
Good afternoon, everyone, or rather good evening. A strong black man. A strong black man can be replaced by no other. Truly a man bred by his mother and bred by his father. Taught to stand on the strengths of his beliefs and not to be debriefed by another's disbelief. Trust in his morals, standards, and not to rely on double standards. A strong black man teaches to his flock, teach one, reach one, never to beseech anyone. Preaching the truth is our proof of a strong black man. And that's by the poet this queen. A landmark figure in the history of the Sandiego Police Department, hired as a chauffeur in 1918. He soon transitioned into the sworn officer ranks and eventually became the Sandiego Police Department's first African-American patrol sergeant and detective sergeant. Upon becoming a police officer, Sergeant Cloud worked hard and showed desirable leadership qualities. Sergeant Cloud's hard work and leadership abilities caught the eye of the police chief at the time, Chief James Patrick, and was later promoted to police sergeant. During his time in America, African Americans were considered less than equal. However, Sergeant Cloud was placed in charge of his white counterparts. Later in Sergeant Cloud's career, he became a detective sergeant. In addition to being the first African-American police sergeant, Sergeant Cloud was the first African-American Sandiego police officer who retired with 20 years of service. At this time, and if I believe he's here, accepted for Sergeant Cloud is his son, Joel Cloud.
First of all, for the record, he was my grandfather. My name's Joel Cloud. He was my grandfather. Unfortunately, I never had the pleasure of meeting him. He actually died before I was born. But I heard a lot of great things about him. I have a quick story about him. Actually, a few years ago, I was playing golf with some older gentlemen on the golf course, and I did not know them. And after a few holes, they asked me my name, and I told them. They said, "Well, are you related to John Cloud?" And I said, "Yes, that was my grandfather." And one of them then blurted out some profanity, and I didn't know why, but he told me the story. Apparently, when he was on the force, these young boys would go and often siphon gas out of the squad car. And he finally caught them one day, and it did not end well for them, apparently. So he had his own way of dealing with things. But anyway, I just want to say thank you all so much for acknowledging and honoring the effort and accomplishment that he made. It really means a lot to our family. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Our next presenter is Officer Theo Costin. She will be presenting for Officer Helga Johnson.
Mother to son, by Langston Hughes. Well, son, I'll tell you. Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had taxing and splinters and boards torn up and places where there ain't been no carpet on the floor. Bare. But all the time, I's been climbing on. And reaching landings and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark to places where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn your back. Don't you sit down on those stairs because you find life's kinda hard. Don't you fall now, for I'm still going, honey. I'm still climbing. In life for me, it ain't been no crystal stair. The beginning. In this piece by Langston Hughes, Mother is encouraging her son to keep striving for greatness through adversity. Mother gives an account of how she surpassed and used it as motivation to keep pushing. Mother paralleled her life to a broken old staircase. Mother is the prime example of how women have not only been the foundation, but the carrier of life. For I still going, honey. I still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair. We shall overcome. Let us juxtapose for a second to the Jim Crow movement of the 1950s and 60s. We'll reflect on how blacks and people of color were affected in the world. From white-only signs to segregated schools to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But it didn't stay that way. The progression of overcoming. The placement of women in law enforcement broke barriers in the early 1900s when the LA and NYPD hired its first female officers. Their roles as cops were centered around community policing and bridging the gap between the community and law enforcement. We overcame. In 1972, Helga Johnson was hired as the first African-American police officer for the Sandiego Police Department. During her time with SDPD, she was faced with several challenges as the department progressed during the 70s. Johnson was among the top 50 of 300 applicants, where she was the only black female during the time when racial and gender tensions were at an all-time high. After successfully completing the academy, Johnson was assigned to the Paddy Wagon as a driver in the downtown area, currently known as Central Division. Helga recalls when she first started her patrol journey, other team members were partnered up, but when it came time for her to hit the field, they didn't have anyone who wanted to ride with her. Helga faced many challenges in being an officer, but she didn't let that stop her from excelling in her career. In 1974, Helga left the Sandiego Police Department only to go on and finish her career completing 28 years of service with the Orange County Police Department. Ms. Johnson, we salute you. Could you please come to the stage?
I just want to thank my Lord Jesus Christ for being here today and for all that he's brought me through. Back at the time that I became the first Sandiego Police Black female officer, I wasn't walking with the Lord. But recently, I was reading something about God's providence. And it was God's providence that led me through the things that I went through. God gave me a wonderful mother who told me I could do anything that I wanted to do. She enabled me to have all the experiences that I needed so that I was very well-rounded, and that I was blessed with the ability that people were drawn to me and would give me a chance. My grandmother was my cheerleader, and she was always extremely proud of everything that I did. And she lived to be the ripe old age of 96 and a half, which is pretty amazing. And the last 8 years of her life she spent with me, and that was remarkable. Earlier this year, I lost my mom, and that was a difficult experience, but life goes on. I'm just thankful for all that they prepared me to do and to be, and I'm thankful for my friends that are here with me this evening. My friend Debbie Ott, who was my friend prior to becoming an officer here, so we've had over 46 years of friendship. And also my niece is here, and she's my middle sister's youngest daughter, and I'm so appreciative that she allows me to be her mentor. So thank you so much for this wonderful experience.
Our next presenter is Officer Sgt Moore. She'll be presenting for Officer Archie Fox.
Good evening. Archie Fox joined the Sandiego Police Department in 1974 after serving in the U.S. Army and becoming a Vietnam veteran. He was a very dedicated police officer, loving person, and a strong role model for the youth in the community that he worked in. In the early morning hours of November 4th, 1978, Archie Fox was ruthlessly shot and killed in the line of duty during a traffic stop by two violent gang members. Archie Fox was the first African-American SDPD officer killed in the line of duty. On November 4th, 2017, the city of Sandiego recognized and honored Archie Fox by naming the SDPD Southeastern Patrol Division in his memory, in the presence of his loving family and law enforcement officers. Accepting for Officer Buggs is his sister, Gwen Buggs, and cousin Pamela Buggs Jones. Please come forward, please.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the family and Archie's sister Gwen Buggs, we thank each and every one of you in attendance, and we thank you from the center of our heart for this award. God bless you all.
Our next presenter will be Lieutenant Ben Kelso, and he'll be presenting for Captain Harold Cox.
Good evening. Well, I'm really happy to see everybody here today. This is really a special night, and if you don't understand, take a look at some of the faces of some of the past folks that were members of the Black Police Officers Association that are here. Howard Kendall is here, and Greg Walton, and Michael Cash, and Charles Kindred, and all those folks, past presidents of this organization. Vernon Kindred is here. You know, I'm really proud to be up here today and present this individual, Captain Harold Cox. But before I do that, I want to say a little something about why there is an organization called the BPOA. Lying thinking last night how to find a soul for my home where water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not stone. I came up with one thing, and I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. There are some millionaires with money they can't use. Their wives run around like banshees. Their children sing the blues. They've got expensive doctors to cure their hearts of stone. But nobody, no, nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Now, if you listen closely, I'll tell you what I know. Storm clouds are gathering, the wind is gonna blow. The race of man is suffering, and I can hear the moan, 'cause nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. That was from Maya Angelou, right? And that symbolizes what the Black Police Officers Association means to its members. It means togetherness, and that you aren't out here alone, especially when you hear the stories of these individuals that are being honored here tonight. They were alone, and they came together. Captain Harold Cox was born and raised in Sandiego. Harold Cox started one of his multiple careers by joining the United States Marine Corps in 1963. And after a tour in Vietnam, he retired from the Marines as a sergeant in 1967. Harold Cox was eventually persuaded into a career in law enforcement by Sandiego Police Lieutenant, former chief, former sheriff, Bill Collender, in 1972. Harold Cox became a deputy with the San Diego Sheriff's Department, and then 2 years later, he joined the San Diego PD. He became one of the SDPD's first recruiters and helped to organize the recruiting and backgrounds unit. And he recounted one of his favorite memories as being when he was asked as a lieutenant to put together a security team to protect Rosa Parks and Coretta Scott King on 2 separate occasions. And when he put that security detail together for Rosa Parks, I was actually one of the officers that was on it, one of 2. Defying the odds, Officer Cox was eventually promoted to captain, where he played an influential role in the community as a member of law enforcement. He participated in the DARE program, Juvenile Justice Committee, District Attorney's Board of Directors, and lead of San Diego. He retired as a decorated San Diego Police Captain in September 2004 after 32 years of service. And while he can't be here with you tonight, I did speak with him several times over the last several months about the award. And what he says, he has some personal issues going on with his family. His wife recently passed away, and he is taking care of one of his siblings who has cancer. So he didn't feel festive to be here tonight, but he did talk about the importance of being together and working to help diversify the department and give each other opportunities, and that's kind of what this is all about tonight. So accepting on behalf of Captain Harold Cox is Southeastern CRO Officer Con Thomas.
Great story we're hearing today. All right, our next presenter is going to be Officer Marlo Woods, and he will be presenting for Detective Sergeant William Burt Ritchie.
Good evening, everybody. Can't. Can't is the worst word that's written or spoken, doing more harm here than slander and lies. On it is many a strong spirit broken, and with it many a good purpose dies. It springs from the lips of the thoughtless each morning, and robs us of courage we need through the day. It rings in our ears like a timely sent warning, and laughs when we falter and fall by the way. Can't is a word none should speak without blushing. To utter it should be a symbol of shame. Ambition and courage, it daily is crushing. It blights a man's purpose and shortens his aim. Despise it with all of your hatred of error. Refuse it as it tries to stick in your brain. Arm against it as a creature in a night of a terror, and all you dream to achieve one day you shall gain. Can't is the word that is foe to ambition, an enemy ambush to shatter your will. Its prey is forever the man with a mission and bows to courage, patience, and skill. Hate it with hatred that's deep and undying, for once it is welcomed, it will break any man. Whatever the goal you are seeking, keep trying. Your response to adversity and hardships is knowing you can. Local San Diegan William Burt Ritchie played an important role in the development of the black community in San Diego in the middle decades of the 20th century. Born in San Diego in 1909, when his family was living at the southwest corner of Front and F Street, Ritchie was an outstanding athlete and a star football player for San Diego High in the 1920s.
Recruited as an athlete by several colleges, Richie chose USC, but was disappointed in his experience with the football team. He spent several years at USC, but then struggled to find a decent job in the then Depression-era Southern California. He worked briefly in the jails for the Sandiego County Sheriff's Department. In May of 1935, the California Pacific International Exposition was taking place in Sandiego, and the police department was expanded. Richie had no intention of being a policeman, but he went there with a friend that wanted to apply for the department. While there, Richie decided he'd fill out an application. After being hired, Richie only wanted to work for the police department for about 6 months so he can save up some money. That 6 months turned into 28 years. Richie started off his career walking the beat in downtown San Diego. He was then transferred to Records Identification Bureau. He became very proficient at fingerprinting and photographing crime scenes. Burt became well known for his work by the supervisor of the homicide unit at the time. So much so, he was specifically requested to process major crime scenes. Burt had a friend that worked as a maid for a prominent San Diego family. He learned that their chauffeur was a laboratory hobbyist and had an extensive kind of state-of-the-art laboratory at the time. The chauffeur was retiring and had no need for the state-of-the-art equipment. Richie made a pitch to have him donate the lab equipment to the San Diego Police Department. The equipment was donated, and now the department was equipped for laboratory testing. The department didn't want the equipment at the time. He kind of had to talk them into getting the equipment and getting with the times of using fingerprints and things like that for a lab. Burt began volunteering at the zoo's hospital to brush up on his lab techniques in anticipation that he was probably going to end up leading this crime lab that he had just gotten for the department. Ultimately, Richie was not selected to work as head of the crime lab. He still decided to work in the crime lab, but then right afterwards became a sergeant and went to that very homicide unit. Burt began working on his law degree in 1956 while he was still on the department. He went to school at night at California Western University. He received his degree in 1961. After retiring Friday, May 29th of 1964, Burt actually found out that he passed the bar exam that following Monday after he retired. He continued on his second career as an attorney and joined Alpha M. Montgomery's law office, practicing successfully for 2 decades, mainly in the black community. Richie made many contributions in the wider community, serving the boards of the Children's Hospital, the YMCA, the original San Diego Stadium Authority. He died in 1995. Detective Sergeant and attorney Burt Richie is the embodiment of not having the word can't in his vocabulary. Please join me in welcoming to the stage, accepting this award on Burt Richie's behalf, is his niece, Diane Richie Andrews.
Thank you. You did a nice job. I was sitting thinking if I could share anything with you, and just I thought about a couple of things. Time has gone by now, so it doesn't happen as often. But for quite some time, I used to have people say to me out in the community, "Oh, I knew your uncle. He threw me up against the wall a few times." You know, I can't tell you how many times I heard that. And the other thing is working with him, because at a point when after I got my law degree and passed the bar, then I went
went to his office and we began working together. So he and I were partners for at least 10 years. It may have been longer than that. And which was just great for me because I could learn from him. But I also, it was the one time he and I got to really spend time together. He and my dad were really, really close. And of course, in growing up, you know, I was around him a lot. But working with him in the office, it was interesting. He was so cool. Nothing ever upset him. And I used to think, oh, that's why he probably did well in homicide. Is that, those of you that work in homicide, are you all like that? I mean, he was just like, cool. And so, anyway. And also, in speaking of growing up around him, my son grew up in his shadow. And never did they really talk, I don't think, about being with the police department. But my son Brian Hewitt is with Sandiego Police too. So.
Fun-filled facts and good information, like little gems, treasures, to hear their stories. Our next officer is going to be Officer Nasira Johnson. She'll be presenting for Detective Johnny Williams.
All right.
Thank you, LT, for adjusting the mic. Good evening. There's some beautiful people in the house tonight. Thank you guys for actually coming out and supporting us. Johnny Williams was born in Southeast San Diego during the height of the Depression. He was one of 8 children and attended Stockton Elementary, Memorial Junior High, and San Diego High School, where he graduated in 1943. Afterwards, he enrolled in City College and San Diego State University. Johnny joined the San Diego Police Department in 1952, where he began as a beat cop. He was later assigned to burglary and finally to homicide as a detective, where he always worked on call, sometimes for 36 hours straight. In his early years on the department, he was assigned to work only with African American officers and only on cases involving African Americans. In 1974, he interviewed, and Johnny stated, "I was called an SOB by my own people." When he first came to the department, that's one of the things he experienced. He didn't let it bother him. He knew it was nothing personal. It was just a part of the job and people were only looking at the uniform. Johnny came to learn the trust of the community. It was known that in some of his cases, the suspects went to his house to surrender to him. If he was not at home, they would wait for him. He was so well known and respected within the community and the department that when famous African Americans such as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and boxer Joe Louis visited San Diego, the department would use Johnny to serve as their dignitary protection. As a homicide detective, Johnny Williams was known to have stellar investigative and interrogation skills. It was commonly said, Johnny could make a rock talk. Some of his interrogations were used as models. statewide in recruit training. Jack Mullen, a retired San Diego police sergeant, said he requested Mr. Williams for his team when he became a homicide sergeant. End quote. He was a wonderful interrogator. He had this fairness about him, Mullen stated. Johnny's philosophy was that you get more being nice to people and putting yourself in their shoes. Throughout his entire career, Johnny was a hard worker, but he had to deal with other officers with less tenure and experience being promoted over him. Johnny Williams' 26-year law enforcement career was marked by his sense of fairness, persistence, and determination to do the right thing. He believed in treating everyone with dignity. When he retired as a homicide detective in 1978, it was estimated he had investigated hundreds of crimes during his tenure. After retiring from the San Diego Police Department, Johnny managed several rental properties he and his wife Ivy owned, as well as Johnny and Ivy's Wash House, a coin-op laundry dry cleaning business that is still operated today by his wife. Please allow me to welcome Ivy Williams, Johnny's Rock.
Thank you. I must say I'm surprised at the amount of officers that I see. Times have changed. When Johnny was on, he was by himself, and then they hired Junior Washington, a retired, ex-prize fighter, can you imagine? And put Johnny, a street fighter, and a prize fighter together. That police San Diego, they were good. Johnny never pulled his gun on anybody. He hated it. We'd go to church and guess who had the gun? It was in my pocket. He put his fists for his guns. If you worked you over, you knew you had it. And many times in the middle of the night, very seldom would we get a night that we weren't disturbed. Somebody would come to the house, they would go to the police station, they would call the police department. And one man came to the house and he hollered, "Johnny Williams live here?" The man said, "No, next door, Johnny Williams here." I said, "Johnny, you got to get up, because this man's not going away." He said, "He's going away," but he never did. That's the life we live. My house is barred up like a jail. Because we never knew when he was going to call. Sometimes we'd be going to work, and all the MRPs you could imagine would call. A lot of people loved him, and some didn't. So we had to be prepared. But I want you to tell you a little bit about Johnny's life. Johnny was born here in San Diego. He's a product of San Diego. He went to school, all his schooling, he used to say how he had to wear mammy-yokum shoes. Does anybody know what mammy-yokum shoes look like? That's what he wore to school. They're little half boots, because the Salvation Army fed him, and the WPA. That's how rough it was. Johnny had a very bad existence. So when I married him, and he begged me to move to San Diego, I thought San Diego was a Garden of Eden. The beautiful weather, the people. I said, "Well, what do people do here?" And he showed me Bert Ritchie and Jack Bransford and all these people. He said, "These are the people." I said, well, why don't you try for something like that? He said, oh, I didn't know, they wouldn't hire me. But he took the test, passed, and he never could get promoted. They made him a homicide detective, which we're proud that we got. But he never knew from one day to the next when he was going to get fired. Because he did things his way. But I love my husband and my son. He would never get called. But he was happy. He loved being a policeman. A man was at the house last night saying if it had not been for Johnny Williams, I would not have what I had. So every day, every week, I don't go through a week that somebody doesn't comment. I want to thank Johnny Williams. So thank you, audience. I hope you understood what I'm trying to say. He had a rough life. You have no idea how horrible it was. And his sister-in-law, my sister-in-law is here, Ernestine. She can attest how Ernestine went in here. She knows how rough it was. The Big John was nobody's play toy. He was about 6'7", and he was Big Bad John. And poor Johnny everybody was terrified. The only reason why he broke the terror was in front of Bethel Baptist Church, if you know where it is, on 28th and Clay. It was dirt. And at that time, the city had iron trash cans made out of iron. So his daddy was drunk, and Johnny saw him. His daddy was calling him all kind of names. And he said, I picked up one of those iron trash cans, and I saw my daddy, and I threw it, and I hit him, and I knocked him down, and he got up, and I knocked him down again. He said, I beat the hell out of him. And he said, then I ran for my life. And his daddy was calling him all kind of names. He said he had to run from then on because his daddy was going to kill him. So Johnny did not have an easy life. I'm going to write a book about it one of these days, but I want you to know my son is here, and everybody, and his sister got on drugs, and she died with a heroin needle in her arm. His brother died as a result of a stabbing. So Johnny did not have an easy life. As I said, in today's world, Johnny wouldn't have been hired to pick up cat turds from behind the building. I thank you.
Oh, my kidneys. Yes, ma'am. Yo, she had my. Oh, yeah.
I think we're going to go ahead and give it to Ivy. She took the cake on that one. All right, our next presenter is going to be Tara Gentry. She'll be presenting for Detective Shirley Black.
Hello, good evening. I'm excited. Shirley, are you excited? Awesome. So I just want to preface this with this woman is fantastic. The more I learned about her and got to discover who she was, it really, really brought out in me a passion for her. She's someone who believes in uplifting and empowering the people around her and making sure that they're successful. And that's one of the traits that I try to embody and empower other people around me as well, because I really believe in bringing the best out of everybody. So Shirley, you are just so totally awesome. A native Sandiegan, like me, joined the Sandiego Police Department as one of the first African American police female police officers in the city of San Diego, Shirley Black. She was already a licensed vocational nurse, and she encountered a San Diego Police Department recruiting table while shopping at the mall. She liked the sound of the job and said, "Oh, I think that would be fun." And she entered the academy on March 15th of 1974. One of the things that Shirley told me when I was talking to her about this is that she would never forget her academy entry date. So I know a lot of you can relate to that. As the San Diego Police Department began to hire African Americans as officers, she was determined to persevere. In the 1970s and 1980s, there were only a handful of African American officers. She overcame added challenges and obstacles as a female patrol officer, as the first African American female patrol officer. She was community policing before it was a concept, and often called a social worker in the field with male peers. After patrol, she promoted to a backgrounds detective position, and we'll get back to that in a second. Shirley was the second Black female officer hired and the first Black female officer assigned to patrol. She experienced adversity in the field. During these times, women of color had to face adversity in every industry, but especially law enforcement. While on calls, she would take the time to speak to the community and learn about the members, try to figure out what had transpired to help her with each of the cases she was dealing with. Again, being chastised by her peers as a social worker. This was the beginning of community policing for Shirley and the rest of the San Diego Police Department. Her legacy as a backgrounds detective is eminent. She was able to encourage and mentor officers who were coming onto the department to be their best selves, as she also mentored many young minority officers throughout her career. She believes in lifting up others to their potential career-wise. Many officers benefited from her mentorship, and some of the examples of those officers are here today. Officers like Chief Terrence Charlo, Captain Bernie Colon, Lieutenant Ben Calso, Lieutenant Brent Williams, and many, many others. These individuals continue to carry out legacies that Shirley Black ignited and cultivated to empower others around you to achieve their best work and be their best selves. Shirley now is retired and she resides in Texas, so I really appreciate that she actually came out here to accept this honor. Shirley, will you please come to the stage to accept your honor?
Thank you for this honor. Okay, I'm fine. The first thing I just want to say, you saw me come up the steps, okay? When I get ready to leave, I want somebody on both sides. I don't want you to say, oops, okay? I want you to say, whoa, all right? Seriously, I told you, Tara, I said I am so embarrassed. By the honor, I did what I felt was right. And if we all had somebody to do stuff for you, when you know it's doing the right thing. I tried to treat people the way that I wanted to be treated, and wasn't. But, I can't say that my experience was all bad, because it wasn't. But it was a life lesson for me, because I grew up sheltered. I'd never seen a gun in my life until I came on the police department. I never even handled a gun until I came on the police department. There are some things that I have never done until I came on the police department. Some experience I have never experienced until I came on the police department. But there were a lot of people that have no idea, just their mere presence. Helga Johnson, for one, when she was on the department, she came on before I did. But when she left, I was kind of devastated because it's just me. Who else is going to be there? I came on with another female, and when I say they were a handful, when you went on a radio call, it was just you. So it was just me when on radio call. But things got better. It was so exciting to go out on a call and look around, and it was no longer just you. You know, that is a very, very good feeling to look around and say, oh. You know, it's like a surprise. And as I look out tonight, it's even a bigger surprise, a better surprise, that Ali Hassan used to always say, such a beautiful bouquet of people. And that's what we have here, to see these people in rank. People, you don't even imagine what it's like to come on a job and somebody to tell you, you can't wear cornrows. When I look around at some of these sisters in here, my heart just started to flutter. I thought, what a minute. That was a department policy. No shaved heads, no cornrows, and you couldn't have an afro greater than 4 inches. They just didn't know that a 4-inch afro with a blowout kit. But that was a good thing. So like I said, I learned a lot about life. All the police department, I have no regrets. I love my job. I love my retirement because it made me a stronger person. I live in Houston, Texas, and I'm telling you something. I am so proud of our department. God is my witness. Every day I see things like, oh Lord, they need us in Sandiego PD, Houston, Texas, to train these officers, train all of them. But I just want to say, I thank all of you. This honor is just to hear you utter my name, that somebody would even remember that I existed, means the world to me. You just can't even imagine. I can't even give a proper speech because I need to go here. I'm bouncing off the walls, but I want to tell you about this, tell you about that. I just cannot. I just only want to say thank you for everything. And thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for remembering me. And thank you for being here.
Escort. All right. Now you can retire to class. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I will confirm, we love us some Shirley Black. When I was a young baby, before I came out of college, I thought I was going to do a lot of things. Be a professional football player, bodybuilder, stockbroker, until I met Shirley Black 24 years ago. Thank you, Shirley. All right, our next presenter is going to be Officer Kristen Robinson. She'll be presenting for Assistant Chief Roulette Armstead.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to present Assistant Chief Roulette Armstead. After rising through the ranks of patrol, Ms. Armstead was the first African American woman appointed to the rank of sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and assistant chief of police in the 129-year history of the Sandiego Police Department. In 1992, she was appointed Assistant Chief of Police, where she managed centralized investigations, which included child abuse, vice, homicide, elder abuse, domestic violence, gangs, and narcotics. She was also the chief coordinator for the non-bias-based policing program. Ms. Armstead developed SDPD's first equal employment office, which gave all department members a non-threatening environment to discuss EEO issues and resolve complaints. As an expert in the field of domestic violence, Ms. Armstead was instrumental in initiating SDPD's first domestic violence division in 1993. Today, the DV unit is recognized as a national model for innovative approaches to breaking the cycle of family violence. For Sandiego, Ms. Armstead was more than just a top cop with 13 years on the department as Assistant Chief of Police. She was an advocate for diversity, a role model for women, and a respected leader in the African American community. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Assistant Chief Roulette Armstead.
Thank you so much. I want you to know that I'm humbled and I'm so thankful and I'm excited to be here. I want to thank the Sandiego Police Department. I want to thank the Black Police Officers Association. And I want to thank all of the people in the community who are here and who supported me over the years. I'm looking at Robbie Robinson. I'm looking at Kathleen Harmon. You know, these are old timers that were around the community when I was the captain over here at Southeastern Division. And as the captain, that was probably my best job. It was like being a mini police chief. If you did your job, nobody bothered you. You never saw the chief, you never saw anybody. So unless you screwed up, you kind of ran your own business. I want to thank Helga, and I want to thank Shirley for paving the way. Without them, I probably would never have been the first Black female captain or first Black female lieutenant or sergeant or whatever. You know, those women were out there before I was, so thank you so much. And it's so good to see both of you tonight. I still think Sandiego Police Department is the best police department. I have not hibernated since I retired. I still teach, and I teach law enforcement at Sandiego State University. And I use the training that I received at the police department to give back to the community, to train prospective police officers on how to do it right. And I got that training from the Sandiego Police Department. So I had an incredible career. You know, I had an incredible career. I enjoyed probably 90% of my time there. Now, there were some bad times too. I raised a little hell, and you guys know that, you know. But, you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But it was all good, you know. It made me a better person. It made the Sandiego Police Department a better police department, I believe, and it made us a better city. So again, I want to thank you so much for this honor. It was good coming back into the community. It was good seeing old friends. It was good seeing, you know, police officers that I haven't seen in a long time. It was a great honor to be honored with all of these firsts and pioneers that have paved the way at the Sandiego Police Department. I believe that Sandiego Police Department is going to go great places. You have a great chief. Now, I don't know Junior, but I did know his dad, Randy, okay? And if he's anything like his dad, you're gonna have a great chief. Okay, so trust me. I worked with his dad for many, many years, and like I said, I don't know Junior that well. I know of him, but you're in good hands. Okay, you're in good hands. So again, thank you so much for this honor. I really appreciate it.
right back and get my card.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here this evening with you all. I've learned so much this evening about things that I didn't even know about. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the service that you gave to the community. So I just want to thank you officers for being so awesome. And it's just a privilege and honor to be here. All right. Talking about pioneers, my accompanying person, piano, I have a great honor of having Mr. Ken Crouch. He has worked with Mariah Carey, Eric Clapton, Destiny's Child, the list goes on. And he is also the nephew of the great late Andre Crouch. So it's an honor this evening.
take a second and just recognize all of our supporters for this event. No specific order, but first I want to recognize Kitchens for Good. Watching them move around, wait on all of you, it looks like they did a wonderful job. We want to thank them for that. But if it tasted like it smelled, it must have been good. So hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. All right, so some of the groups and foundations that supported us that we want to say thanks to: the Sandiego Police Foundation, One Sandiego, the Sandiego Black Police Officers Association, Santec Graphics, the Sandiego Police Officers Association, Bill Howe Heating and Air, the Community Review Board on Police Practices, Councilmember David Alvarez, Council President Myrtle Cole, Councilmember Georgette Gomez, Councilmember Chris Ward, the San Diego Metropolitan Credit Union, the National Latino Police Officers Association, the Metro Chapter, San Diego PANPAC, the Buffalo Soldiers, the San Diego Chapter, and the Jacobs Center for Neighborhood Intervention. So if I could please have the Buffalo Soldiers come up to retire the colors. Thank you. You all may be seated. As we bring this event to a close, I'd like to take a few seconds to just say thank you to Officer Marlo Woods and Kevin Vasquez. They're both two Central Community Relations officers that had the idea for this event, and they worked so hard to bring their idea to life. Also, I want to thank the event planning group, all of the individuals that dedicated their time, their talents, and a lot of effort to make this event happen. On behalf of the San Diego Police Department and all of its African American officers, we want to thank you for supporting this event and helping us to celebrate all of our honorees. It is their devotion, dedication to the career of law enforcement that has paved the way and provided an opportunity for all of those that have come after them. I want to thank everyone for making this a special event and sharing it with us. Thank you, and all of you, please drive safely.